I'm Dr. John Kruse, and today I'm going to be talking about mental health over the holidays. So I'll start with the take-home message as usual, and then jump to more detailed presentation. Take-home message is that the holidays for many people are a stressful time, and yet you are in the best position to take care of yourself. And I'm going to run through a biopsychosocial approach in terms of how I think of different levels of taking care of yourself and what you can do. So jumping right into the main story. So why are the holidays stressful? They're stressful psychologically, largely because expectations are high and often our actual experiences don't meet the expectations. So that's the recipe for being disappointed, unhappy, negative emotions. And part of why the expectations are high is there is a forced jolliness, joviality. People are expected to be delighting in seeing people they aren't seeing frequently. They're supposed to be delighted in exchanging gifts, at least in most of America. They're supposed to be delighted in spending money that they may or may not have, and most studies show people overexpend or spend more than they believe they have comfortably around to spend. So these are all different stressors. And again, the difference between expectations and actuality is a really important one. So I'm going to contrast this to the experience of several patients I had during the first months of COVID, when lots and lots of people were feeling miserable. And several of the people I worked with who had chronic anxiety or chronic depression actually felt better. Why did they feel better? One is that they felt that finally others were sharing in and understanding their misery, their depression, their negative thoughts, their fearfulness. So they felt connected. They didn't feel separate or alien from their fellow people. And a related idea with that is that they felt in synchrony. They felt they were with the zeitgeist for once in their lives, that their world, their environment matched them. And for a few of these individuals who were chronically depressed or anxious, they had an elevation in their mood for several years, triggered by the COVID epidemic. That sense. So again, right now at the holiday season, many people are dealing with the opposite. Big expectations to be happy, to be joyous, to be celebrating, and not feeling that they are in sync with the people around them. So the biopsychosocial model that I'm going to talk briefly about, I was lucky to do all my training, undergraduate, medical school, PhD in neuroscience, all at the University of Rochester in upstate New York. That University of Rochester is where John Romano, an internist, and George Engels, a psychiatrist, developed what they called the biopsychosocial model. And that was in opposition to the biomedical model. This is more than half a century ago. So the biomedical model in the post-war years was increasingly biological and trying to reduce everything, not just in psychiatry, but in the body, to physiological processes. And the insight and the emphasis that Romano and Engels brought to it is that humans are organisms that exist on lots of different levels. Yes, we are biological animals, but yes, we have psychological meaning to the actions, feelings, and thoughts in our lives. And yes, we are social animals who are unavoidably tied into the fate, actions, responses, participation of our fellow human creatures and our bigger world at large, and that all of these affect us as physical, medical processes and psychological processes. If you try to reduce people down to just one level, you are missing so much of what it is to be a human. And particularly if you're treating their health just at one level, you're missing opportunities to help them be healthier. So on a biological level, I'm going to just talk about three things that are important during the holidays: sunlight, alcohol, sleep. So on the biological level, I'm going to talk about sunlight in the Northern Hemisphere, the winter holidays, Christmas holidays, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, other religious holidays are aligned with some of the shortest days of the year. We know sunlight is important to mental health and probably physical health of humans. We're not unique that way. Lots of mammals hibernate or take some approximation of hibernation during the winter. Seasonality isn't just tied in with depression. There's a host of mental health conditions that seem to fluctuate on a seasonal rhythm. And one of the ways that our bodies measure seasonal rhythms is the duration of the day, the circadian clocks. So in the 1980s, there was early studies using bright light therapy. I was involved in some of those studies way back then, using bright lights to treat seasonal depression. And the American Psychiatric Association and others has released several statements over the last decade indicating that bright light therapy is as effective as medications for seasonal depression and probably has a considerable role in treating other depression as well. Interestingly, for people with ADHD, there's at least one study showing that in non-depressed individuals with ADHD, these same bright lights used for just about a half hour early in the morning brought about an improvement in executive functions on several different measures, and that effect was not just a trivial effect, it was a substantial effect. They're theorizing is that many, if people with ADHD have disruptions, desynchronization of different circadian clocks, and that a bright morning light may help synchronize those and help make the brain work more effectively. So the other things to remember is that some people, particularly the early days of research into SAD, seasonal affective disorder, blamed it as this is just the Christmas blues, the holiday blues, sort of, again, expectations that everyone be joyous. But the research was pretty compelling that people at latitudes, at more northern latitudes where the days are shorter, had higher incidences of seasonal depression. There are studies done in the southern hemisphere where Christmas time is midsummer, and seasonal affective disorder, it seems pretty clearly linked to day length and availability of morning light, not to just the seasonal social expectations. So with morning light, the thing to remember is that even a cloudy day, the amount of light exposure is probably about an order of magnitude higher than you'd get in bright indoor lighting, normal indoor lighting. So bright indoor lighting is in the range of 200 to 500 lux. Even an overcast day, you're at more than 1,000 lux. A bright sunny day, you're closer to 25,000 lux. So getting outside is probably going to be more helpful than just staying inside. And there are light boxes that are designed to deliver about 10,000 lux. That seems to be an adequate dosage level over 20 to 30 minutes. The intensity of light falls off with the square of the distance from it. So if you're twice as far from a bright light, you're only getting a quarter of the light. If you're 3 times as far away, you're only getting a ninth of the light. So light boxes are designed to be used in a certain range, usually about 1.5 to 2.5 feet, to deliver 10,000 lux. Some of them are bright white lights, some of them are blue lights. That's not to celebrate Hanukkah colors. It's at the blue light end of the spectrum is what the circadian clock gets its retinal input from, light hitting in that wavelength. The blue light for many people is less harsh or less likely to create eye strain. So bright morning light, either natural or in a box, can help with seasonal depression, may help with other mental health conditions. 2 other biological factors, alcohol. I have a whole nother video on it. My simple answer is alcohol's not your friend. The less you consume of it, the better for your brain. It certainly does work as a social lubricant and reduce anxiety, but most people pay for that with greater anxieties or withdrawals. Moderate amounts for some people are certainly manageable, but the more you consume, the more likely you will be regretting it, and your brain will regret it. And sleep is the other biological factor I'm going to talk about quickly. And with sleep, we have to remember it's not just the quantity of sleep, it's quality. So quantity is most people really need somewhere between 7.5, 8.5 hours a night. If you're getting substantially less than that, you are setting yourself up for lower mood, greater anxiety, increase in executive function or executive dysfunction, so increase in ADHD symptoms. And that the quality of Sleep is as important, and one of the biggest factors for the quality of sleep is getting it at the same time each night. If you're used to sleeping from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m., and you stay up till 1 a.m. and sleep till 9 a.m. and think, I still got my 8 hours, you still got your 8 hours, but that is not going to be nearly as refreshing, restorative, or put your brain in the same place. So trying to maintain both quality and quantity of sleep is important. So moving on to the psychological level, part of the stress of the holidays is not just that the expectations are high and the forced joviality, and is that there are really greater demands and lower support. The greater demands are higher social demands. You're expected to show up in many more Christmas parties, holiday events, get-togethers, relatives you might only see once a year. So the demands socially are higher. Demands of gift giving, which are a financial pressure. Again, most consumer studies suggest individuals spend on the holiday season more than they have planned for, more than they have budgeted for. That's a financial strain on them, separate from just trying to imagine what is going to be a welcome or well-received gift. That's adding pressure, or whether at all to give gifts, who you're giving them to. And in addition to the social and eating, our social and gift-giving financial pressure demands that are greater, eating demands are greater. 1, to eat greater amounts, 2, to eat foods you might not used to be eating them in the context with different people and different, perhaps, times of day. So there are stressors on our body in lots of ways, greater demands, and support is lower. So at one level, having a regular work schedule, most of that gets suspended or disrupted right near the holidays. So particularly individuals with ADHD may have more of a challenge to regulate what's going on during the day. And also, it's a time of year most people are busier. So you may have less family member support to rely on to get tasks done because they're busy trying to do everything else as well. So that particular combination of higher demand, lower support makes it stressful. So what's the biggest tool for that? It's scheduling. And I have a whole video on scheduling. I'll try to condense some of that. Part of the problem with scheduling is many people view it as a left brain task. They view it as some mean master forcing you to do what you don't want to do, and that it's coercive, that it's inflexible. But the right brain approach to scheduling, the holistic approach, makes it clear that what scheduling is doing is using the wisest, most nurturing part of you that is trying to align what you're doing in the moment with your own long-term goals and values in life. That's that's the best caretaker you would want, that's trying to help you do what you yourself want. The shorthand I say with scheduling is, one is I say schedule all of the basics into your day before you schedule any other tasks in. So the basics are sleep. Again, hopefully regular, hopefully sufficient. Eating. You don't want to be moving, working, doing things until you realize, oh my God, I'm hungry. Put those meals into your schedule. Movement. Human bodies need a certain amount of exercise, a certain amount of movement to maintain health for the body and mentally. So schedule those in. That doesn't mean it has to be an intense workout. Some of those occasionally are good. And you should also have some rest, relaxation, downtime, because every brain cannot be productive 24/7. You need time, separate from sleep. You need time to rest, whether it's formal meditation, whether it's just chilling out time, whether it's unscheduled time, whether it's me time, what you call it. All of those are good and useful to have. So the second thing, after that's all in place, then you schedule the tasks. And what's often difficult with tasks, I've been delaying on writing the Christmas cards. I've been delaying going to the store to buy Christmas presents. When you think about the task, think about why you want to do it, not why you should or you have to, you need to. If the shoulds, have to, needs to were compelling, you'd be doing it already. You're not. So getting in touch with the wants is usually more motivating. It can help when you're scheduling these items on your calendar to put down a few words of why you want to do it, why it's meaningful for you, why it will bring you joy or happiness or relief. Because those thoughts usually are not foremost in the mind when they come up on the schedule. And then the third thing with scheduling, I would say, is yes, if your neighborhood is having a tornado or a wildfire or flooding or some other emergency, your best friend finally got you Taylor Swift tickets and you can go this evening. If it's a real emergency, change your schedule and go ahead with it. The first thing after saying yes or saying get the hell out of there is probably figuring out when to reschedule any important activities that you had, tasks that you had put into the day. But most things that come up are not real emergencies. And usually, if the best, wisest, smartest part of you said that you should be doing task X at this time, it's usually best to do that task or go to that party or do whatever pushing you outside of your social comfort zone and not respond to the reluctance of the moment or the excitement of some other alternative at the moment. This is particularly true for people with ADHD who are constantly derailed by things that pop up at the moment. Now, at the end of the day, it's a good thing to revise. Was it really a bad idea to go to that party? Was it really a bad idea to try going shopping at Costco at 10 a.m. on the holiday weekend, X, Y, or Z? So part of the value of a schedule is that you can reevaluate it and reset it, but you should actually pretty much go ahead and do the things that are on your schedule. And that takes practice. The last piece, the social piece, is that we are social animals. The Unabomber has come up recently in terms of the Mangione behavioral health assassination. Even the Unabomber, who lived in a shack in rural Western United States for more than, I think, almost 2 decades, had a craving for social connection. He wrote a multi-page screed and demanded that it get printed in the Washington Post and New York Times. So even the most extreme of modern-day hermits still can't avoid acknowledging that they have social needs and that we are evolutionarily a social animal that evolved within a pack, within connections to others. But what I would say, and I say the same thing about your media intake, is treat your social intake like your media intake, like a medication, and get the dose that's right for you. Now, there are big pressures probably to get bigger doses than usual right now at this holiday time of year. And some of those, again, given they may be once-in-a-year opportunities, you should, maybe it makes sense to agree to, or part of you wants to. So you may be outside of your comfort zone a little, but you don't have to behave frenetically and choose or go with all the options that you want. And visiting with someone, you can put time limits on it. You can structure it so that it's not an all-day immersive experience if you're not wanting to connect that long. The other thing, and I guess Mr. Cupcakes jumped off the chair so you can't see him, is in addition to connecting with people, it might be a good time to connect with nature, to connect with animals. There are clearly growing body of research that these are important restorative values for human brains and minds. The other thing I would say is I hear so many people complaining, oh, Christmas is just such a commercial, corporate, capitalist holiday. I hate it. I hate it. And what I would point out is that this might be jumping back to the psychological rather than the social, but pressure's coming from social. Remember, Christmas is a highly repurposed holiday, at least back in terms of further remote history, pre-Christ, pre-Christian era. There is clearly winter holidays. The Romans had Saturnalia, but lots of other cultures, pagan cultures, had a holiday regarding the sunlight. The day length is finally growing longer. The days are growing, even though we're in the depth of the coldest part of the year. There's hope that the sun will come back, the warm days will come back, the more comfortable, easy times for living will come back. So Christians repurposed this for most of 2,000 years to be some variant of Christmas. In the last century plus, the Christian view of Christmas has been co-opted by a corporate capitalist one, but that just shows you can make this holiday what you want it to be. So you can make it about remembering what you have gratitude for. You can make it about connecting with the people you want to connect with that you don't see often. You can make it about gratitude for what you have and what you have to look forward to. You can make it about quiet reflection. Or you can make it about unplugging and doing nothing at all. You can decide what this holiday means for you. You do not have to accept the view that your society or your family or your own training urge you to create the expectations that might not fit what you want. And I'd also tie that in with much of the social pressure can create social anxiety. And one of the effective tools for alleviating social anxiety is changing focus. So I say anxiety is often an attention problem. The focus is you are focused on trying to perform, trying to please, trying to make others happy or create an impression or to pass to get a grade. And if you think of it, this is a quest, not a test. This is not a performance. No one's going to grade you and say, oh, you got a B- on Christmas dinner because you didn't smile enough or you didn't give the right present. So make it a quest. And the quest is, what is the purpose of this holiday for you? Or what is the purpose of this interaction? Is it just to reconnect and rekindle old friendship? Again, maybe that can be done in half an hour rather than 4 hours. Does that require drinking to do it? Maybe or maybe not. So keeping in mind what your bigger quest, what your bigger goals are, and not making a test out of each situation can help alleviate stress. And my last and parting message, and I wrote a little essay about this a couple of years ago, is if you want to smile, give a smile. Smiles are contagious. Smiles if you force yourself particularly into a genuine smile where it's your eyes as well as your mouth are moving, you will feel more positive and you are very likely to make the people around you smile back or feel positive themselves. There's no obligation to do that. If you don't want to, don't, but that's something you have control over. So stay happy, stay healthy, and smile if you want to.